In old age, the most dangerous thing you can do is stay silent. Because silence allows patterns to grow, pain to settle, and boundaries to vanish. It allows loving parents to become invisible, generous mothers to become exhausted, and devoted fathers to become resentful. And not because their children are cruel or malicious, but because over time, expectations shift, roles reverse, and what once felt like family unity slowly turns into imbalance. That is why in old age, there are 6 things you must never tolerate from your children. These things may seem small at first, but if ignored, they can quietly chip away at your peace, your dignity, and even your sense of self. This video is not about blame. It is about awareness. It is about protecting what you've spent a lifetime building. And most of all, it's about reclaiming your right to peace, purpose, and respect in this chapter of your life. The first behavior you should never allow is disrespect. Now, let's be honest. Most parents would say they raise their children to be kind, polite, and considerate. And most adult children still love their parents deeply. But love without respect feels like being hugged with one arm while the other hand pushes you away. Disrespect in old age is often quiet. It doesn't always scream. It whispers. It shows up in a rushed tone when you're speaking. It hides in the way they laugh at your opinions or interrupt you with a sigh because they already think they know better. It sounds like jokes about how you're behind on technology or don't understand how things work anymore. And it hurts because you've lived. You've endured things they'll never understand. You've made sacrifices they won't fully see until they're older themselves. So when they treat your wisdom like a joke, it stings. It makes you question if your voice still matters. But here's the truth. It does. Your words matter. Your life story matters. Your opinion matters. And if they forget that, you have every right to remind them. Respect is not a luxury you earn through favors or silence. It's a basic human right. And the older you get, the more sacred that right becomes. Speak up, kindly, firmly. Let them know that sarcasm isn't funny when it chips away at your value. Let them know that dismissing your thoughts is not acceptable. If you don't defend your dignity, who will? Now let's talk about the second thing you must never allow in old age. And that's ongoing financial dependence from your adult children. It often starts with love. A car payment here, a few groceries there, help with rent during a rough patch. And before you know it, your retirement savings have turned into a family bailout fund. And every month, the same call comes in. Mom, I just need a little help this once. Dad, I promise I'll pay you back. But the help keeps coming. The payback never does. And slowly your golden years start to rust under the weight of someone else's financial choices. This is not about being heartless. This is about being smart. You've spent decades earning your rest. You budgeted. You planned. You lived with less so that one day you could live with peace. That day is supposed to be now. But if you're constantly bailing out your adult children, you're robbing your future to patch their present. And here's the hard truth. Every time you say yes when you should say no, you're teaching them to stay dependent. You're giving them an excuse not to grow. And you're placing your own well-being second. Helping occasionally is generous. But when help becomes a habit, it's time to stop and ask yourself, what am I giving up to keep saying yes? You're not just giving money. You're giving away your freedom, your peace, your ability to sleep at night without worrying how you'll pay for your medication, your groceries, your next emergency. Your financial security is not optional. It is essential. Say it clearly. I love you, but I cannot keep sacrificing my future to support your choices. Offer guidance, not a blank check. Offer wisdom, not a wallet. Because when you protect your retirement, you're not being cold. You're being courageous. And that brings us to the third thing you must never accept. Emotional manipulation. This one is especially tricky because it often hides behind love. It disguises itself as concern. It wears the mask of sadness, disappointment, or silence. And it always makes you feel guilty. You say no, and suddenly you're the bad guy. You choose yourself for once, and suddenly they're heartbroken. You decide not to babysit this weekend or not to lend money again, and suddenly they remind you of every time they were struggling. They bring up their childhood. They hint that you've changed, and all you did was say no. That's emotional manipulation. It's not healthy, it's not fair, and it's not love. Real love doesn't need guilt to get its way. Real love accepts boundaries. Real love respects no as much as it celebrates yes. When your children start making you feel selfish for taking care of your own needs, you have to step back and ask, when did love start requiring silence? When did kindness mean I had to disappear? Because the truth is, you're allowed to put yourself first sometimes. You're allowed to rest, to decline, to protect your time, your energy, your mental health. Saying no is not a betrayal. It is a decision. And the people who love you will understand that. Maybe not immediately, maybe not perfectly, but over time, they will learn that boundaries are not rejection. They are respect. Let's move on to the fourth thing you should never allow. Your time and space being used like a convenience store. Always open, always available, always expected. Maybe you've been through this. You just sat down with a cup of tea and the phone rings. Can you come over right now? Or worse, they show up at your door without notice. They assume you'll cook, babysit, fix, clean, listen, drop everything. It feels innocent at first. Being needed can feel like love. It gives you a purpose. But over time, it wears you down. Your time is no longer your own. Your plans are always second. Your home becomes a revolving door of everyone else's chaos. And slowly, your peace starts to vanish. That is not okay. You have the right to a calm home. You have the right to rest without guilt. You have the right to read, to walk, to nap, to exist without constantly being on call. Being retired does not mean being available 24 hours a day. You earned your freedom. You earned your quiet. And if they can't respect that, you must teach them how. Set expectations. Say, I love being part of your lives, but I need notice. I need space. I need time for me. That is not selfish. That is survival. The fifth behavior to never accept is neglect. And this one is painful because it's not about what they do. It's about what they don't do. They don't call. They don't check in. They don't visit. They forget your doctor's appointment. They never ask how you're feeling. You become an afterthought in the very lives you helped build. And it hurts deeply because you were there. You were the constant, the helper, the shoulder to cry on. And now, when you need just a little of that care returned, there's silence. You wait by the phone. You pretend not to care. You tell yourself they're busy. But inside, you feel forgotten. Let me say this clearly. You deserve to be remembered. You deserve support. You deserve love that shows up, not just love that remembers on holidays. Speak up. Ask for connection. Say, I've been feeling alone. I would love a call now and then. And if they still don't show up, shift your energy. Pour your love into the people who do show up. A neighbor, a friend, a kind stranger. You're not a leftover. You are still here, and your presence is a gift. Finally, the sixth thing you must never allow is one-sided caregiving. It begins with small requests, a few hours of babysitting, a favor here or there, but it grows. Suddenly, your whole schedule revolves around helping others. You are the free nanny, the chauffeur, the errand runner. But when you mention your own needs, your future care, your health, suddenly everyone is too busy. No one wants to talk about it. That's a red flag, because love is not one-sided. If you're being asked to give and give, but no one wants to plan for when you might need help, you are being used. It's not intentional, but it's real, and it's dangerous. Have the hard conversations. Say, I'd like to talk about my future, my care, my needs, and if they avoid it, make your own plans. Talk to a professional. Put things in writing. Decide now who will help, how it will work, what your wishes are. Because your care matters. Your health matters. Your voice matters. You're not here to be used. You're not a tool. You are not a second chance for someone else's failures. You are a whole, wise, valuable human being, and you have every right to peace, joy, and respect in your later years. If that means having hard conversations, so be it. If it means saying no, so be it. If it means changing your boundaries, so be it. Because your life is still yours, and you're allowed to live it fully. It's amazing how many older adults silently carry the weight of family guilt as if it were a badge of honor. They don't speak up when they're hurt. They don't object when their time is taken for granted. They swallow the disrespect, dismiss the sarcasm, and tell themselves it's not worth the fight. But deep inside, that silence becomes a heavy burden. Every unspoken frustration piles up. Every ignored boundary chips away at their spirit. Until one day, they look in a mirror and barely recognize the person they were supposed to become after retirement. Someone peaceful, free, joyful. But it doesn't have to be this way. The path back to yourself starts with one decision. A decision to no longer shrink in spaces where you should be celebrated. A decision to no longer say it's fine when it isn't. A decision to stop asking for less just because you were taught to be grateful for crumbs. You're not a background character in your own story. You're not here just to support everyone else's milestones. You still have your own life to live. And if your children truly love you, they will learn to make space for your needs too. Not just during emergencies or birthdays, but as a regular, ongoing act of love. But you have to teach them how. And teaching starts with action. It starts with saying no to things that steal your joy. It starts with walking away from conversations that belittle you. It starts with trusting that your needs are valid even if they're inconvenient to someone else. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get said enough. Just because you're aging doesn't mean you're done growing. Too many older adults are made to feel like they've peaked, like life is just maintenance from here on out. That mindset is a lie. You still have chapters left to write. You can still discover new parts of yourself. You can still be delighted, still be surprised, still fall in love with a place, a hobby, a person, a version of you that you didn't have time to meet earlier. But none of that is possible if your energy is constantly tied up in repairing broken family dynamics. The truth is, your later years should not be about constantly managing everyone else's chaos. They should be about creation, about fulfillment, about putting your own name back at the top of your to-do list. You've earned that. You've earned mornings without obligation, conversations that nourish, not drain, and relationships that respect your boundaries, not challenge them. So if you've been conditioned to feel guilty for resting, remind yourself that rest is not laziness, it is restoration. And restoration is how you keep your spirit alive. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes standing up for yourself will cause people to leave. Some children, when faced with a parent who finally says no, will react with withdrawal, coldness, or even anger. And that will hurt. But what will hurt more in the long run is betraying yourself to keep the peace. Because peace that depends on your silence is not peace at all. It's quiet suffering. You don't need to scream. You don't need to fight. You just need to stand. Stand in your truth. Stand in your self-worth. Stand in your dignity. The ones who truly love you will circle back. And the ones who don't, well, they were only comfortable with a version of you that wasn't real. There's power in choosing yourself. There's power in saying, this is what I need now. It doesn't make you a bad parent. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you whole, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And your later years are not meant to be a continuation of the same exhaustion you felt in your younger ones. They're meant to be lighter, freer, more aligned with who you truly are, not just who you had to be for others. Let's also acknowledge something critical. Boundaries don't destroy families, they reveal them. When you begin to express what you truly need, you start to see who listens and who only wants you quiet. That's not bitterness, that's clarity. And clarity is a gift. It helps you stop chasing approval and start cultivating peace. And that's what you need most right now. Peace that doesn't depend on performance. Love that doesn't require sacrifice. Joy that isn't postponed until everyone else is taken care of. This is the chapter where you get to be the priority. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, it's okay. They'll adjust or they won't. But either way, you will begin to breathe again. You will begin to feel seen again. Because for the first time in a long time, you're not waiting for permission to live the way you want. You're giving it to yourself. And what if no one supports your decision? What if your children think you've changed too much? Then you keep walking with grace, with strength, with quiet confidence. Because the version of you that bent over backwards for everyone else is gone. And in her place stands someone who knows her worth. Someone who is no longer afraid to take up space. Someone who understands that love without respect is not love at all. There's beauty in boundaries. There's power in rest. And there is deep healing in reclaiming your identity after years of being defined by others. Let this be the season where you become your own source of validation. Where you stop waiting for them to call and start making plans that don't require their approval. Where you fill your calendar with things that make you feel alive, not obligated. Because your legacy is not just what you leave behind for your children. It's also what you leave within yourself. The peace, the strength, the unshakable joy that comes from finally choosing your own well-being. When you begin to take your life back in old age, something powerful happens. You start to see the difference between love that lifts you and love that drains you. And what many parents don't realize is that the habits formed in family dynamics over decades often go unchecked until they're unbearable. But now is your time to recheck everything. To ask yourself, is this relationship serving both of us or just one side? Because there comes a point where your heart is tired of giving without being held, where your hands ache from helping without being helped, and where your silence starts to feel like surrender. And that is not the life you worked so hard to build. You have a right to joy, a right to mornings that are peaceful, not panicked, a right to evenings where you watch the sunset instead of waiting by the phone. And the only way to claim that right is to start unlearning the patterns that kept you small. You do not owe your children your entire self in exchange for their presence. You do not have to carry guilt for choosing your own comfort now. If they say you've changed, good. You're supposed to. Growth doesn't stop just because you're older. In fact, it becomes more urgent. Because now, every day counts. Every moment of peace, of laughter, of freedom becomes sacred. And you should never feel ashamed for protecting it. Let's talk about what happens when boundaries are finally set. At first, there may be resistance, especially from children who've gotten used to the version of you that always said yes, that always prioritized their lives over your own. They may call you difficult. They may pull away. They may even make you feel like the bad guy. But don't confuse their discomfort with your wrongdoing. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to your well-being. And sometimes the discomfort they feel is actually the growing pain of learning to respect you as a person again, not just a parent on standby. And here's the truth no one says out loud. The more you give without limit, the less they learn how to stand on their own. It's not cruel to say no. It's instructive. It teaches resilience. It shows them that life doesn't always hand you solutions, and that's okay. That's how they grow. And when you allow them to face life with their own feet planted, you give them the chance to discover their own strength. That's a gift, not a punishment. Now let's explore something many older adults avoid talking about: emotional exhaustion. The kind that creeps in quietly, not because you're weak, but because you've carried too much for too long. Emotional exhaustion happens when your role in your children's lives becomes more about fixing than enjoying. When every conversation is a request. When every visit is another task. When your phone lights up and instead of feeling joy, you feel dread. That's not the way love is supposed to feel. You deserve relationships that nourish, not deplete. Conversations that light you up, not wear you down. Time with your family should fill your soul, not empty it. That if you find yourself constantly bracing for the next favor, the next guilt trip, the next sigh of disappointment, it's time to hit pause. Not on the love, but on the pattern. Emotional energy is precious in old age. It's not unlimited. You need it for your own healing, your hobbies, your friends, your own growth. And if your family isn't contributing to that, it's okay to take a step back and create space to breathe again. Many older adults also feel trapped in the idea that being a good parent means being endlessly available. But let's rethink that. Being a good parent isn't about never saying no. It's about teaching your children how to respect your no. It's about modeling what healthy self-respect looks like. If your daughter sees you set boundaries, she'll learn to set her own. If your son sees you take time for yourself, he'll understand how to do the same. You're not just guiding them in their youth, you're guiding them now. Not through sacrifice, but through wisdom. Another major issue older parents face is the lack of acknowledgement for what they've endured. When adult children act like your past doesn't count, when they forget that you once carried the weight of everyone's needs, that dismissal is a form of erasure. It's saying your sacrifices are in the past. They don't matter now. But they do. They shaped who you are. They deserve respect. And while you may not need a parade or a constant thank you, you absolutely deserve to feel seen. Sometimes all you want is to hear someone say, "I know you did a lot. I see it. I appreciate it." And if you don't hear it from them, say it to yourself, out loud. "I did so much. I gave so much. I survived so much, and I still matter." The truth is, old age is not a season of disappearance. It's a season of discovery. You're discovering that your voice still holds power, that your time still holds value, that your heart still has space for dreams. And when someone, family or not, treats your later years like a burden, you have every right to correct them. This is not your decline. This is your unfolding. That let's take a deeper look at something often brushed off: emotional independence. As your children grow older, they build their lives, careers, marriages, children. But many parents forget they can do the same in reverse. You can build too. Build friendships that bring joy. Build routines that spark energy. Build a new identity beyond being mom or dad. Yes, you'll always be their parent, but you're also a person with goals, curiosities, and freedoms. And the more you live like it, the more they will see you as whole. When you prioritize your happiness, you quietly give them permission to do the same in their own lives. That is how generational healing begins. Now here's something that might surprise you. One of the most common regrets among older adults isn't what they did for others. It's what they didn't do for themselves. The trips they didn't take, the classes they never joined, the books they never wrote, the boundaries they never set, the peace they never demanded. Don't let that be your story. Let this be the chapter where you write yourself back into your own life. Start small. Say no when you mean no. Say yes when it lights you up. Take yourself out to lunch. Join the art class. Learn the dance. Start the garden. Your life is still blooming. And your children don't get to decide how you grow. Because here's the core of it all. If you let them, people will keep you in the role that suits them best. The one where you're quiet, helpful, available. But you were never meant to be only that. You are evolving, changing, rising. And anyone who loves you should rise with you.